If you want to play devil's advocate, the industry has something good going with web video, right? It's good for brands. We need that. It's fairly scarce, depending on who you listen to. Getting pretty good pricing, especially for the expensive stuff. So you could argue, why mess with programmatic at all? Like, why go there when we see what's happened to the display market? It doesn't seem like it's been kind.
Well, I see programmatic as a way to buy media in today a non-guaranteed manner. I think that I liken programmatic in some respects to an ad ops process. In fact, at Hearst, we've merged the functions. Programmatic sales and ad ops are now one. And as I've observed at other publishers, the unification of ad ops and programmatic selling is either pending or well along, because it's a method for buying media. And again, today programmatic is largely, perhaps exclusively, offered by the sellers on a non-guaranteed basis, or perhaps a better way to look at it is purchased by the buyers on a non-guaranteed basis. AOL with the event next week is one example of a giant player trying to change that paradigm, but programmatic, because it's non-guaranteed, tends to, in part, be associated with low CPM remnant.
So when you talk about programmatic guaranteed buys,
right?
That sort of that makes me think: is that absent of any sort of negotiation? Are you just talking about using a web-based technology to buy your media and execute your media instead of sending an IOs? Or are you talking about something different?
In part, I'm talking about something different. A guaranteed buy would, in theory, require a binding contract, which today an insertion order, which governs direct sales, would represent the binding contract. Most of the insertion orders are not terribly binding. They can be canceled nearly on a moment's notice. Right. So the guarantee is soft. But at least it gives buyer and seller a method of reserving inventory. And generally speaking, by and large, the IOs are fulfilled to completion. And so effectively, it's a guaranteed buy. I think that guaranteed buys will happen increasingly on the programmatic front, because publishers are learning how to parlay the technology to offer buyers, and importantly, an increased number of buyers. A sales team, an expert sales team like Hearst's, can only cover so many direct accounts. So they'll naturally cover the big traditional accounts, but if that number's in the hundreds, well, there are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of quality advertisers who would like access to Hearst's inventory, buying in smaller quantities, but yet at high CPMs. And so you make that available programmatically. And when the bigger buyers are competing against a long tail of smaller buyers, you're effectively creating an auction, which is and should be good for buyer and seller. There should be pricing equilibrium that essentially creates a CPM that's fair to both parties. As that happens, and it's happening here at Hearst, then the big buyers are looking for private deals, private auctions, deal IDs. They have different words that are used to describe these things, but increasingly in a guaranteed fashion. So a buyer will make a commitment, and that'll need to be through an insertion order.
So this isn't. I think people tend to think this is going to lead to getting rid of the sales guys, right? This is automating what used to be done by humans. You're really talking about using programmatic to get to a long tail, to open up your video inventory to like a lot of small advertisers, like as has worked with Google and other companies. Am I reading that right?
In large part, yes, but we also use programmatic to make it easier for the short tail, the head of the curve, the big advertisers to buy as well, because our sales team, who are incredibly well trained and have developed the important relationships with the media buyers at the agencies and at the clients that we have, they want to collaboratively create high impact experiences and sell native advertising products that today can't be auctioned. As those products, those ad products are created, invented, innovated, I am sure that auctions will follow, and there will be an ongoing cycle of innovation. The premium brand sellers have, I think, the most important role, which is leading ad product innovation and coaching their clients on how to buy us in the easiest possible way. And then, of course, to your point, the long tail that of very qualified advertisers. A watchmaker in London who wants to reach a small geographic target who we can't call on can still nonetheless buy access to our audience's attention.
How much of this are we speaking hypothetically, or how far along is your company towards this endeavor?
Very far along.
And I mean, I guess I would wonder. I always think of, maybe this is an ignorant question, but you need a serious amount of volume to play in this space. You guys aren't YouTube, but you have a fair amount of video inventory. I'm sure it's growing. Like, do you have enough volume to make this worth your while, or is it?
Well, I should offer a clarifying point. Today, we're very far along on what would be considered traditional display advertising with IAB units and the innovations that come from organizations like the OPA. Video is, I'll have to confess to being 11 weeks new, and so I don't have the full perspective of everything that's been developed here. It's a big organization, and a lot of innovation occurs, and I'm catching up. But on the video front, not as developed, but definitely a work in progress.
When you say not as developed, like, are you saying not this year, or like you're just doing some tests at this point? Like, where are you guys?
We'll make great progress this year. Fellow panelists from NDN is a company I've worked with in the past in this regard, and we'll work with best of breed providers to set up the best ways to make our inventory available to buyers through guaranteed buys, through non-guaranteed buys, programmatically, which is essentially self-service, or through our advertising operations service, which is in partnership with our sales team, full service.